Well, Donald Trump just got more bad legal news, and I want to update you on that today. So, you might remember, because he said it about a bajillion times, that Trump believes, not actually, but he says that he believes that he can declassify documents however, whenever, with his mind. We'll get to that clip in just a little bit as a reminder. But this is kind of been one of his defenses against the investigation into his mishandling of classified documents, and importantly, the obstruction that likely went on that's being investigated. And he has responded constantly, again, we'll get to some examples in a moment, to these questions about that investigation by saying multiple things, almost all inaccurate. And one of them is, I can declassify like this, just I think I do a little dance move, documents get declassified. Doesn't seem to be accurate, number one, and he seems to know that it's not inaccurate based on this. This is from CNN. The National Archives has informed former President Donald Trump that it is set to hand over to Special Counsel Jack Smith 16 records which show Trump and his top advisors had knowledge of the correct declassification process while he was president. In a May 16 letter obtained by CNN, the acting archivist, Deborah Steidel, Wall, writes to Trump, quote, the 16 records in question all reflect communications involving close presidential advisors, some of them directed to you personally, concerning whether, why, and how you should declassify certain classified records. So apparently he's known since before this whole classified documents kerfuffle even began, since his time as president, the proper declassification process, but misrepresents those facts now because of the legal trouble that he's in. So this is one of the most famous examples of him very confused about the subject, saying he can declassify with his mind.
Understand it. You know, there's different people say different things, but as I understand, there doesn't have to be. If you're the president of the United States, you can declassify just by saying it's declassified, even by thinking about it, because you're sending it to Mar-a-Lago or to wherever you're sending it. And there doesn't have to be a process. There can be a process, but there doesn't have to be. You're the president. You know, there's.
So the National Archives will be sending over proof of his, or we think proof of his knowledge of the property classification method to Jack Smith, and that could contribute to charges that are possibly brought against Trump. We'll talk about more on the charges or possible charges in just a moment. But first, you might remember as well, at Trump's CNN town hall, he once again repeated this sentiment.
My question for you, though, when it comes to documents, do you still have any classified documents in your possession?
Are you ready?
Do you?
No, I don't have anything. I have no class.
By the way, whoever does that, I know it's a strange way to phrase that question, but you get asked about something and your answer is going to be no. Who goes, you ready? No. Because he was trying to decide, should I say it doesn't matter because I can if I wanna? Or do I just deny it? So he kind of went with a, are you ready? Let me think. No.
My question for you, though, when it comes to documents, do you still have any classified documents in your possession?
Are you ready?
Do you?
No, I don't have anything. I have no classified documents. And by the way, they become automatically declassified when I took them. But
no,
why?
You have to declassify
Let me
them.
ask you a question. Why is it that Biden had 9 boxes in Chinatown?
Okay, and that we've covered before. So there, he says they're automatically declassified when you take them. He can take them, he can take whatever he wants, and they're automatically declassified when he does so. Doesn't seem to be the case, sir. And you seem to know that based on these batches of information that the National Archives will be sending to Jack Smith, making your defense even more rough. Now, I want to show you some of an interview that was done with Trump's lawyer after this information was reported on. And the whole exchange was very fascinating to me. And watching just how Trump lawyers deal with the narratives they have to go with to defend Trump is always entertaining. We looked at it. I looked at Alina Abba, who's one of Trump's lawyers recently, getting into a back and forth with Dana Bash. And it's always just very strange. If you're going to support and defend Trump, you're going to end up looking strange one way or another. This is yet another example of that.
President of the United States, did Donald Trump know how the declassification process worked, or did he just ignore it?
Well, President Trump was exactly right in your town hall the other day. He is aware of a bureaucratic process that can be used. He used that bureaucratic process in the middle of his presidency to declassify the Crossfire hurricane matters that are the subject of that 316-page report we saw this week. But at the end of his presidency, he relied on the constitutional authority as commander-in-chief, which is to take documents and take them to Mar-a-Lago while still president, as he was at the time, and to effectively declassify and personalize them. He talked about declassifying them, but he didn't need to. And if you look at the Constitution, you look at the Presidential Records Act, there is absolutely no basis for saying that bureaucracy rules and that the president doesn't have the authority entrusted in him by the voters to possess.
Now watch. The CNN host just perfectly confronts him with the facts in just a second here.
And to declassify and to hold on to documents.
Hold on. Let's look at the Presidential Records Act and what it actually says. It says the United States shall reserve and retain complete ownership, possession, and control of presidential records. And under federal law, willfully removing any record or document carries the possibility of a 3-year prison sentence. We looked it up, as journalists do, and you know, nowhere does it say that you can mentally just think about it and that they are declassified. So you haven't heard this from any other president at any other time. So what gives Donald Trump the right to use?
How would that even work? I won't go through this rant again. I did it when we originally covered that interview from Trump where he says you can just declassify with your mind. If there's no process and classification is literally for the purpose of distinguishing certain information from other information so that people know and an organization knows, our government organization, who can look at what information, who gets to be privy to which batches of information. If you're not doing anything other than thinking about a document being declassified, then how would people know how that information, that document fits into that structure? It makes no sense.
Mental gymnastics to try and figure this out and try to put out there that this was all perfectly legal.
You've packed so many misstatements into one question or whatever that was. I'm not sure, but let me tell you this.
Well, I read the law, so it's not a
Presidential
misstatement.
Record Act. Well, yeah, well, we'll see about that. The Presidential Record Act does not have a criminal enforcement component to itself. Okay, look at it again. Not in the PRA. PRA.
I don't understand. I don't understand this world we're in. You just get to say whatever you'd like, and anything is what you want it to be, and facts don't matter. And there she presents actual information to him, and so many people, not that MAGA people are watching CNN, but if they were to, they would see a Trump lawyer saying confidently something, see a CNN person presenting facts and go, well, the facts have to be bogus and the Trump lawyer has to be honest, has to be correct, even though you can verify whether or not what they're saying is true or not. And as to what Trump could be charged with, what he's being investigated for, I know generally we understand it to be mishandling of classified documents, but interestingly, the classification and Trump's knowledge of it being classified or not classified is relevant in that the subpoena that Trump received asked for documents with classification markings on them. And so if he's trying to make the argument that, no, you were asking for classified documents, so I was keeping them because they weren't classified, even though they had classified markings, but I thought of it, and then him knowing that that's not how the process works. So you knew you had classified documents. The subpoena asked for that. You turned over some documents, but knew that you had more and lied about that to the FBI, that would be a part of the obstruction, lying to the government, all of that. And that would strengthen the case there. But just the mishandling and a lot of what Trump is being investigated for isn't actually dependent at all on the classification of these documents. This is from Reuters. The warrant gave prosecutors, this is referring to the warrant that led to the FBI raid of Mar-a-Lago, the right to seize records containing evidence in violation of 3 laws with code numbers 793, 2071, and 1519. While the list of items agents took from Mar-a-Lago notes that many of the documents were classified, those 3 laws deal with mishandling of federal government records regardless of whether or not they are classified. And then to the question of, does it make any difference whether documents were classified or not? Federal law makes it illegal to intentionally take classified documents to an unauthorized location, but that law was not among the 3 cited in the search warrant. That means whether or not the documents were classified has no bearing on those specific charges relative to the search warrant. But as I mentioned, one of the important aspects of this investigation has to do with the obstruction. And this is from the New York Times. Another charge in the FBI affidavit was section 1519 of Title 18, which makes it a crime to conceal records to obstruct an official effort. Prosecutors would need to show that Mr. Trump knew he still had files that were responsive to the National Archives' efforts to take custody of presidential records and the Justice Department's subpoena for files marked as classified, and that he intentionally caused his subordinates to fail to turn them all over while leading officials to believe that they had complied. That penalty is up to 20 years per offense, and you have multiple different charges: contempt of court, conspiracy to make a false statement based on Trump getting his lawyers, it appears, to lie to federal authorities about not having any documents when they knew that they did, or at least Trump knew that he did. So very interesting. Yet another loss for Trump, and making the chances of charges, at least in my analysis, more likely out of this particular investigation, because there are so many that we are keeping up with.